What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Net Fans You Know. This episode was supposed to come out right before the Mikal Bridges trade, so I had to do a couple edits to it. You're going to notice it's kind of structured a little differently than most episodes. For the first 20 minutes of the episode, I got a great guest. We're going to be talking about laying the framework of Jordi Fernandez and his offense with Team Canada, how he became the head coach of Canada. After that, I'm going to take over and I'm going to go a little bit deeper, going over the schemes, talking about the Nets roster now and how that offense might work. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into the episode. Let's go.
Gets it off in time. And it's golly, baby! Big time Nets win!
Oof, the only net fans you know? The only Nets fans you know?
Man.
I mean, come on, man. Or are these guys?
Welcome back to Only Net Fans You Know podcast. I'm Peter. Welcome to episode number 82, Game Plan. Today, I have a different type of guest. He is not a Nets fan. He is actually a Raptors fan from Canada. Welcome to the show, Jonathan Chen. How's it going, bro?
It's good. It's good. Thanks for having me on as a non-Nets fan.
You write for Raptors Republic, and you did such a great job breaking down the X and O's on a lot of stuff that Jordi Fernandez did for Team Canada. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain. We really don't know a lot about him. You're sort of like the professor in this case over here.
Right. Yeah, sure. I'm down to help.
Okay, so I know Nick Nurse takes over the 76ers. He was the previous head coach of Canada. And all of a sudden, Jordi Fernandez is promoted or he's made head coach. So what happened with that? Was Canada happy with the selection of Jordi Fernandez?
The main issue was kind of a shock because when Nick Nurse kind of got fired or whatever, they split ways with the Raptors. He came out and said, I'm still committed to Canada basketball. And Canada basketball said, we still want him here. He's going to coach this summer and then for the World Cup. And then about a month before, out of nowhere, it was announced that Jordi was going to be taking over. And it was kind of a big shock, too, because Jordi had kind of never really been a part of the program, Canada basketball here. And obviously, he did have NBA coaching experience as an assistant coach, and as well as a lot of FIBA coaching experience as a lead assistant coach, I think, with the Spanish national team as well as the Nigerian national team. I for one, was kind of blindsided almost by it because Nick Nurse, he came up with this idea where they were going to kind of build continuity since 2021 after Canada didn't make the Olympics again. And they were like, we're going to have a core of players. Everything is going to be chemistry. And then right before the World Cup's about to start, your coach leaves. It was definitely a shock and probably not a great first reaction, I would say.
Did he try to change up the program in the training camp? I mean, like when I say that, I mean like the schemes or sets or whatever that Nick Nurse put in. Did he adopt his own? Like, what was the first feelings on that?
We always hear about this with like new coaches in the NBA. You need to give them time to kind of instill their system, so that the players are familiar with like different coverages, different sets, and things like that. So it was definitely something I was interested in. I think it was good because Canada basketball had actually some exhibition games. They had a 5-game set. So there was like that kind of 1.5, 2 week stretch where Jordi could kind of tinker a little bit and try out different things. And I think what we saw there was definitely a shift and kind of a change in how the offense was being run a little bit. And this is kind of an overgeneralization, but it's very similar to the Sacramento Kings offense where, you obviously, so Canada doesn't have a big like Sabonis, as good as Sabonis is, but Jordi really liked to have kind of his bigs, which were Olynyk and Dwight Powell, kind of be like these playmaking hubs. A lot of dribble handoffs up top, a lot of dribble handoffs in the kind of high elbow area. So I think that was one of the major changes that he kind of first started with.
Yeah. I know from your work, Jordi made adjustments throughout the whole FIBA tournament. Could you give fans like a couple examples of something that he did? I know he made a change with like SGA, getting him maybe more spacing. And after that, tell me about the defense, if there was any changes there.
Yeah, no, sure. I think one thing that Brooklyn Nets fans can definitely be excited about is Jordi is I think I would say he's a pretty strong at making in-game adjustments, and he's pretty proactive at making these adjustments. And sometimes they're even like game-to-game adjustments. So yeah, so like one example that you kind of alluded to there was kind of creating space for SGA, because what was happening is during the exhibition games, especially against a team like Germany, the defenses were kind of selling out to Shea's drives or Shea's pick and roll possessions. So what ends up happening is, you always hear that kind of cliche, don't help from one pass away, because it's such an easy read for the ball handler to make. But what was happening with Germany was they were literally bringing nail help, and like just staying at the nail basically.
Can you explain? What's the nail for people who don't know?
Yeah, so I think if you think about like if you're up top, if the player's up top and it's like a 5-out kind of offense, you can think of like the nail is like the guy who's guarding the wing player, but he's like stuck at like the elbow area, basically just trying to deter the drive and kind of try to force him the other way. Canada initially put Kelly Olynyk at the nail because or at the wing, because he's such a good 3-point shooter. Like he's an elite shooter over his NBA career. And so like in the NBA, most of the time you might kind of stunt and recover, but you're not going to like really be staying at the nail for a long time, or like aggressively staying at the nail, because, you want to get back out to the shooter in case they make that pass. But Germany was ultra aggressive, and they were like, we don't care if Kelly Olynyk has a wide open 3. We're going to try to stop Shea's drives. And what ended up happening was it really kind of made Canada's offense really clunky at the beginning. And I think Shea kind of struggled a little bit in the first couple of exhibition games because, there's just no space. And so what Jordi kind of did, he changed the alignment of the offense. So instead of being kind of like the conventional 5-out where there's like 5 players on the perimeter, the idea was he kind of flattened out the alignment. So he put 3 players on the baseline. So 2 in the corner and 1 in the dunker spot. And then he had a pick and roll with Shea up top. And the benefit of this is all of a sudden there's no nail help from the wings because everybody's in the corner. And so it opens up a lot of space in the mid-range for Shea as well, coming off of that screen. And so I think what I called it was like kind of sacrificing off-ball spacing, so you have more on-ball spacing for Shea. So I think that was one of the biggest adjustments that he made that was kind of consistently throughout. A good example of like a defensive kind of adjustment that he made, again, going back to Kelly, he's not a great pick and roll defender. He's not a great defender in general. He's kind of flat-footed, a little slow, and doesn't really have kind of vertical pop. And what ends up happening is a lot of teams start going at him in pick and rolls, right? You get a guard like Dennis Schroeder coming off a screen, and Kelly Olynyk is there. Like Dennis Schroeder is blowing by every time and getting to the rim. And for Canada, Kelly is a really important piece because of his shooting and his passing on offense. So you can't just sub him out. So what Jordi does is he has Kelly Olynyk guard a wing player. And then he has Dylan Brooks slide up to guard the big that Kelly is supposed to guard. So that now, let's say it's Daniel Theis, for example, on the German team. When Daniel Theis comes to set a ball screen for Dennis Schroeder, now all of a sudden Dylan Brooks is just going to switch it. And so then you don't really obviously like Dennis Schroeder versus Dylan Brooks is a better matchup in terms of advantages than Kelly Olynyk. And then let's say Shea was guarding Dennis Schroeder, he switches on to Daniel Theis. And if Germany wants to go after Shea with Daniel Theis, that's much better for the defense, at least for them. That's much better than Dennis Schroeder getting to the rim, who's a much better offensive player. So I think that's one example where I really like kind of Jordi's kind of proactive in-game adjustments.
I see. Would you say very creative in these in-game adjustments? Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so. I think on the offensive end, it's definitely he's definitely pretty creative and more cutting edge. I think they ran this one set called the point series, where it's a kind of like Princeton offense where the ball goes into the high elbow and then there's a bunch of actions and the big just kind of decides who to give the ball to. They basically came up with like this new wrinkle later on in the tournament that got RJ Barrett like a weak side post up, and that's a great advantage for RJ Barrett, who's so strong, and just getting him downhill earlier. I think on the defensive end, he's a little more conservative, I would say. He really likes, or at least with Canada, he really liked to play smaller so he could switch as many actions as possible.
For the offense, he mentioned in an interview with Sean Marks that he wants to, I believe he said he wanted to play fast. Did he speed up the offense compared to Nick Nurse? Or is there any other wrinkles or changes in the offense that you could point out in particular?
So I think definitely playing fast is definitely something that Jordi embraced with Canada. But I think also that wasn't so much of a huge change from Nick Nurse. It's just given kind of Canada's rosters in the past, we usually really thrive a lot more in transition. So I think that's definitely a natural thing that I think it actually fits well with the Brooklyn Nets. And even some of his kind of dribble handoffs and using bigs as playmaking hubs, I was just like thinking, I think that really fits in well with Ben Simmons, kind of with his kind of playmaking. I don't know if he's gonna play. I mean,
I know, don't, bro. That's why I laugh, bro. Don't worry, no one's gonna get mad at you, bro. We know. Trust me,
but
we know.
that I think that it's optimal with Mikal Bridges as well. Like having that 2-man games between Simmons and Bridges and Simmons and even Cam Johnson with their shooting. I think that's something that really fits in well with Jordi's kind of offense. But yeah, I think that would be, he definitely likes to play fast, and you might see him kind of jumping up and down and like screaming at his players to hurry it up throughout the year.
What would you do with Ben Simmons? This is a great question to ask people.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I haven't watched a ton of Ben Simmons in the past couple of years, but I've always been a fan of his game. Like I really like kind of. I know he's kind of a guard, but I really like bigs that can process the game and pass the ball. And I think it's kind of almost like the new meta in the NBA with the way the Kings play, the way Jokic and Denver play. Not to say you don't need a point guard or anything like that, but I think there's different reads and there's different opportunities available for offenses when there's a big handling the ball on the perimeter. And I think honestly, I think Ben Simmons fits into that kind of perfectly. As just with his passing. And obviously he's an incredible defender. I think I like Ben Simmons' game. I know the other stuff outside of the game has been a little problematic in the past couple of years and the injuries, but I really like Ben Simmons. Yeah, no, exactly. I was gonna say, yeah, with the health too. I really like Mikal Bridges. I think honestly, I think Brooklyn has a lot of pieces for a really good playoff team. They have a lot of those surrounding supplementary pieces. At least from the games that I've watched. So I think it would be aligning just to kind of get that blue chip prospect, that number one option kind of thing.
Take one net and put him on the Raptors.
So I guess if it's kind of the same Raptors now with
whatever you think the roster is going to be next season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah. So I think the Raptors are kind of building with Quickly, Barrett, and Scotty Barnes. I mean, I'd probably go with Nic Claxton. I know he's a very big favorite among Raptors people, on Twitter. They really want Nic Claxton this summer. Is he a restricted free agent or something?
Unrestricted.
Right, unrestricted. Yeah, I've heard that a lot as being thrown out. So yeah, I think I would go with Nic Claxton.
Right now, we're looking at the Raptors roster. Obviously, we still have the draft and free agency. What would you want to see next year as a Raptors fan from the team?
Yeah, I think this was it was a big transition year for the Raptors. And it's kind of been a long time coming. For a couple of years, we've been talking about trading OG Anunoby, trading Siakam, trading Fred VanVleet, and it finally happened this summer where they blew it up.
Yep.
So the Raptors are in a tough spot. So I think the main thing definitely has to be just getting as much young talent back into the team, and injecting that. And I think they found something, or I think I would assume the core right now is Quickly, RJ Barrett, and Scotty Barnes. and also Grady Dick as well. I think adding to that this summer in the draft is probably the way to go. And I honestly would not expect him to be good at the next year, but I think that's okay. Yeah, I think the Raptors are in for a multi-year rebuild, but they really just need to kind of recuperate some assets because we've had too much kind of leaving the door since the championship.
What can Nets fans expect the most? If you picked one thing from Jordi Fernandez, what's the one thing that they could expect from him?
Yeah, no, I think what you can expect is definitely a guy who kind of like a no nonsense kind of guy. In the NBA huddles, like we don't get access to the NBA huddles a lot unless it's like kind of those mic'd up, which are all like censored.
Yeah.
But in FIBA, they are available on the streams. And Jordi, there was a couple times Canada kind of came out lethargic, and Jordi is not afraid to rip into his guys in the huddles.
What the fuck?
And so I think that's definitely something that if you maybe go to a game or something, you might overhear if you're close enough. But yeah, no, I think Jordi really did an incredible job with Canada basketball. We'll see how much that translates, but I think you're going to get a coach who's smart, who's going to make the right decisions, kind of tinker with different things to try and come up with adjustments, and really just like kind of a modern basketball offensive mind, at least with what he was doing with the national team last summer.
All right, I asked everybody this, but since you're a Raptors fan, I'm going to put a little spin on it.
Sure.
What is your favorite Raptors jersey?
Yeah, I think for me it's like there's like the throwback, the white dinosaur throwback.
Good answer.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like the purple. It's like the purple version of that.
I own one.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think those are the top two. I think back when the Raptors were like vibrant colors and not this like boring red and black and white. So yeah, I think I would go with that. I would go with that.
All right, Jonathan. Do you have any plugs you want to put out there for the people to find your work?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can find all my work at raptorsrepublic.com. And you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Jonathan C. Chen, and then an extra N at the end. I think it was really fun to kind of talk and chop it up with kind of a Brooklyn Nets perspective. And yeah, I think Jordi will be doing a good job from what I've seen with Canada basketball.
All right, guys, you could find Jonathan's work in the description box. I'm going to put a link there. I highly recommend it. Obviously, follow him. What if I told you Nic Claxton was the key to the Nets offense next year? In 2016, a 34-year-old Jordi Fernandez joins the Denver Nuggets as an assistant coach under Mike Malone. On the roster is a 21-year-old Nikola Jokic. This starts an 8-year run, capped off by 2 years with Mike Brown and Sabonis, that Jordi's teams had a big playmaking center running a big part of the offense. Kelly Olynyk filled that role for Team Canada for the FIBA tournament last year. Obviously, not the best to fill in for a Jokic Sabonis type role. It looks like Nic Claxton is going to be slotted into that role next year. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot more. He's going to be making decisions, passing more, dribbling a lot more. It's going to be very interesting how Jordi molds this offense. Let's take a look at some Team Canada film and see what situations Clax might be getting into. We're going to be looking at Kelly Olynyk, and he's going to get the ball at the top of the three-point line. He's going to go towards on the right elbow. He's going to be met by RJ Barrett, and this is where the read and react part of the offense is going to kick in. Olynyk can give a dribble handoff, a screen. There's going to be a lot of space because if you notice on the left side of the court, you're going to have 3 players on that side. Barrett takes the screen, cut. He's going to get a bounce pass from Olynyk, and nice layup. Play number 2, Dwight Powell playing in the Claxton role. After the offense is started, Kelly Olynyk quickly gives it to Dwight Powell. Olynyk sets a pick. The cutter rejects the ball. You have a wide open Kelly Olynyk. All right, the next 2 plays are actually going to be the Richmond Spiders doing the point series offense, which Jordi ran with Team Canada. The guard takes up the ball, gives it to the big. the wing in the left corner could take a screen. He decides to take a backdoor cut, bounce pass by the big, layup. All right, this is probably the most aesthetically pleasing play out of the four. There's going to be lots of movement, so stick with me. The guard brings up the ball, passes it to the right elbow big. He splits to the left side of the big. The left wing rejects the screen proposed by the guard, and he's going to run to the right corner. While this is happening, the guard heads back to the three-point line. He's going to get the ball, rejects the screen, cuts. The defense rotates. The right wing, wide open. He cuts, gets the ball on a bounce pass, wide open dunk. Playing this at full speed, you really get a feel for how players have to read and react and how important basketball IQ will be for this offense. Overall, after doing research for this podcast, reading over interviews, watching games, and all that good stuff, if I had to prepare Nets fans for Jordi Fernandez, I would say this is a passionate dude, high basketball IQ. His offense is probably going to be focused around motion, read and react, having a playmaking big. A point guard who could probably score a little bit more would probably be more ideal for the offense. This guy's not going to give a fuck. If Cam Thomas is not playing defense, it doesn't matter. He's not going to play, even if he's scoring 40 points. This guy's going to demand the most out of the Nets, and it's going to bring some fire that I really feel like was missed last year. He's not afraid to be creative and play different lineups. He's kind of like sort of in the mold of Ime Udoka. I'm a little wary of using that as a direct, like one-to-one comparison, but Jordi definitely can do in-game adjustments, just like Ime, demands the most out of players like Ime, still a player coach. Overall, I'm excited. I think this could be a big-time hire for the Nets. All right, we got one mailbag question this week. Caesar asked, do you think they'll have Clax work on his three this summer, and do you think they'll start letting him shoot them more often mid-game this season? Every basketball player works on different shooting drills, shooting in their spots, shooting from different spots. I'd want him working on different drills and stuff that have to do with his role in the offense next season. I like to see his passing get better, working on his dribbling more. And of course, you want him to get stronger. Would it shock me if he took a 3 a game this season? Because this season is basically a lost year that we're just trying to get development in the forefront. No, it wouldn't shock me. Before we end things, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for checking out this episode and sticking with the podcast. It means the world to me when you guys check out these episodes and enjoy them. Nets basketball is something that I'm sure that we're all passionate about, and I'm so thankful to make content for our community, and I'm excited for next season, no matter what it holds. You could follow me on Twitter at NetsFansYouKnow. If you're on YouTube, which you probably are because you're watching this right now, make sure you subscribe, like. Have a great day. Have a great night, guys. And thank you guys so much. And let's go Nets.